Hello, I am Kanisha Grayson, founder and CEO of The Art of Applying. Just in case this is your first time joining us, The Art of Applying is an admissions consulting firm that helps people get into top business schools, policy schools, and law schools. And today we have a special guest. We have Patrick Mullane, who is Executive Director of Harvard Business School Online. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Kanisha. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks so much for being here with us. So today we'll be talking about the name change of to Harvard Business School Online. But before we dive into that, please give us a bio of yourself.
Sure. So I grew up in Texas, as did you, I think, in Houston. As you mentioned to me, you due diligence, my father was an astronaut, so I had kind of a cool childhood. Growing up there, I was a military brat for most of my life. I went to undergrad at the University of Notre Dame, majored in math, and went in the military myself. I was at school on an ROTC scholarship. After the military, I did a little bit of private sector work, and I applied to business school myself, not knowing very much about it, and certainly never thinking that a place like Harvard would accept me. Because again, like you, I was just some, middle-class kid from South Texas who went to a public school. But the reason I applied was I actually encouraged a buddy of mine in the Air Force who was trying to decide what he wanted to do. And I said, I don't know why I said it because knowing nothing about it, encouraged him to apply to an MBA program. He calls me up one day and says he got into Harvard. And when he told me that, I'm like, well, if he can get in, maybe I can get in.
That's right.
So went to Harvard Business School. And then after that, I was in a startup in a whole bunch of other industries. Most of my career after that was running a manufacturing company here in Massachusetts. When that sold about 3 years ago, I was looking to do something different, and I always liked the education space. And contacted Harvard. They had a job opening to run what was called HBX at the time, the school's online education initiative. And here I am 3 years later.
Wonderful. Okay, so 3 years in, and we have, I'm saying we because I'm an HBS alum, but I'm not on the team. HBS has rebranded the online education away from HBX to now Harvard Business School Online. Talk to us about what the thinking was behind this change. Why change it from HBX to Harvard Business School Online?
Sure. So HBX, when it got its start, was about 5 years ago. And at the time, many of your maybe older viewers will remember there were a lot of online education entities popping up. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them threw an X on the end of their name. So edX obviously was a big player, HarvardX, MITx. Putting an X on the end of a name became kind of an indicator that you were an online education provider. So at the time it made some sense. But as we grew and developed, and particularly as we differentiated what we do, because there's a lot of differences between what we do and what a typical MOOC, the massive open online courses organizations do, and I'll talk about what those differences are later. It really didn't serve us well, frankly. So that was one reason. The second reason is that it wasn't obvious it was Harvard Business School, and as a mission-driven institution, if you believe that what you have to offer is valuable, you'd obviously like to reach more people than less. So we really wanted to identify more closely with the institution. So removing the X and actually calling it Harvard Business School Online achieved both of those goals.
Understood. And that actually is a bold move. To me, it signals almost something like Harvard Business School fully claiming that online space and not kind of trying to tiptoe in it and have distance like, oh, that's that other thing over there. Yeah, it's got
and by the way, I think that was part of the reason it was named what it was too. I wasn't here when it happened. So I think there was still uncertainty and a lot of business models were being tried and it wasn't clear what was going to work. But we've kind of proved that we have a real thing going here. And to your point, I think the school actually wants to identify with it more closely.
Definitely. And it's very, very exciting. I graduated 2010, so it must have been during my 5-year reunion. We actually got to do a tour of the filming studio, and it was amazing. It was very exciting. So I'm all for the rebrand, the claiming it fully. So what do you all call it for short around the office? Is it HBS Online, HBSO? People need some sort of short thing to call it, especially after.
We're trying to keep people from saying HBSO. Our folks who are in charge of branding here want to put like a shock collar on me, and if I say HBSO, they're going to zap me. So
okay, for sure.
Try to say HBS Online, just to be clear, it's Harvard Business School Online.
Okay, so that's interesting. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I've already gotten a number of emails with HBSO in them, so it's a bit of an uphill battle.
For sure. I totally get that you have the shot collar on and that you're not supposed to say it. I will just say, as someone who interacts with hundreds of applicants, it's got a great ring to it. And I'm pretty sure they will let you know what they're going to call it. But
I won't correct them if they do it.
Yes, got it. But for all of you listening out there, they internally do not call it HBSO. It's HBS Online, so that if you want to say it the right way. Okay, so the core, the Credential of Readiness, the bundle of 3 courses, which is Business Analytics, Economics for Managers, and Financial Accounting, taught by Harvard Business School faculty. That is very popular among our clients, as well as just our broader audience of grad school applicants. I know actually a lot of the people watching this video will have taken core or plan to take it. Now with this new name change, how should people who have already taken core, when it was called HBX Core, how should they list that on their resume?
Yeah, we have actually some frequently asked questions on our website that gives explicit instructions on that. We do issue paper certificates to all of our participants. We are not going to go back and reissue the old certificates.
Okay.
And this is a pretty common practice in academia. A great example is when Harvard merged with Radcliffe and started giving Harvard degrees to women who had gone to Radcliffe. They didn't go back and reissue Harvard degrees to all the women who graduated before. And in fact, I would encourage people who have one to hold it close and take pride in it, because you actually are kind of a pioneer in a very new thing, and will have something that's going to be very distinct in just a few years from what other people are getting. So the HBX certificate is still valid. On all the electronic references, though, we have explicit instructions on what to call it and how to reference it, for example, on your LinkedIn profile or your resume. And I think it's pretty straightforward. It's Harvard Business School Online.
Okay, great. And we'll put the link to that below the video so that people can click on that quickly and see exactly what Harvard Business School Online says, exactly how you should do it for your resume and for anything like LinkedIn or something like that.
Right.
Okay, wonderful. Also, speaking of core, I see now that with Harvard Business School Online, those 3 classes are also offered unbundled. They're offered individually. So I just want to say to all of you out there, Kanisha of The Art of Applying highly recommends core for applicants. I recommend the entire bundle. But if for some reason you just crushed one of those classes and you just know you do not need to retake it, it is available unbundled. So you could take just one of the 3 courses. So I just wanted to say that to the audience that's watching, that now you can take just Economics for Managers or just Financial Accounting or just Business Analytics. Although I recommend doing all 3 for your
So do I.
Okay, wonderful. So does Patrick. And I also see now that there are actually a lot more courses available. When did those other courses become available?
They've been released about 3 a year over the last 3 years.
Okay.
In fact, we have a total of 9 courses, including the unbundled, or I shouldn't say that, not including the unbundled. It's 11.
Not including the unbundled. Yeah. Okay, wonderful.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead, Patrick.
So there's a whole host of them, as you note, from negotiations to entrepreneurship to sustainable business strategies, management essentials. So there's a nice kind of variety in various disciplines that help people get really focused learning. If you're applying to school, I think, particularly business school, I think core is great. If you're already taken something like that, or say you're a business undergrad, I still don't think it hurts to take some of the other disciplines. I always say when people ask me about applying to business school, that showing an interest, an aptitude, and a motivation to take extra content or extra courses before you apply, and that doesn't have to be, by the way, Harvard Business School, just in general, I think can be very helpful. When I applied to HBS, I had a concern about this. My undergrad GPA wasn't great. I did have a master's degree I did okay in, but I was living in Omaha, Nebraska at the time. I went to the University of Nebraska and took an accounting course just so, I could show that I could do it and I had some motivation. Fortunately, nowadays you don't have to do it and get in a car and drive somewhere every evening. But in any case, I'm sure you do too. I recommend that's a very good thing to do.
Excellent. Yes, I agree. And I also did something similar. I took accounting through like paper correspondence course
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
from BYU.
Yeah.
And yes, and actually
That sounds more old school than what I did, and you did it
I
a
know
lot later
I
than
went I did the like Renaissance carrier pigeon version of a course, and then I also took corporate finance in the Yard, in Harvard Yard, with the undergrads, which was very humbling to be older than them and sitting in the front row trying to understand what's happening in corporate finance. So yeah, I love that there are the other courses that they can take as well in different subjects. I do want to just say an aside for people out there watching, those of you who are very eager and overzealous, there is a diminishing return. Do not go take all 11 courses at Harvard Business School online thinking that that gives you some sort of amazing edge. Please take as many courses as interest you. Take all of them if you are interested and excited, but do not take all of the courses thinking that that is somehow going to give you some edge in applying. Do not do that for that reason. Yeah. Okay. So, Patrick, how do you and your team decide which courses will be offered via Harvard Business School online? Because Harvard Business School itself has dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of courses that could possibly be included. So how do you decide which ones are included and turned into an online course?
It's a very good question. It's often driven by faculty availability, to be honest. And the reason that is there's 234, I think, faculty here at Harvard Business School. Only about half of those are tenured, and thus far we've only been using tenured faculty to teach our courses. So by the time you get that whittled down to that, say, let's call it 100 for a round number, many of them have heavy teaching loads. Many might be doing research or case writing. Some could be on sabbatical. So as you start to weed through, who has availability, because making a course is a very involved process.
Yes.
We need probably 30 to 40% of the faculty members' time over about a year to 18-month period to create a course. So it's a very complex process. By the time you kind of go through all those wickets, the number of faculty in a given year that can do something is actually quite small. As I say, the benefit of that, though, is that pretty much any topic we could teach from here, there is going to be an audience for. There's a lot of topics in the liberal arts that might have very niche audiences that, kind of esoteric topics. If for example, I think there actually is a course on Sanskrit. It's probably hard to find a large paying audience for Sanskrit. So we've been primarily driven, as I said, by faculty, but now that we've built out several courses in various disciplines, we're trying to become a little more pointed in how we decide what we're going to make, because we do have ideas about, once we've got our portfolio a little bit bigger, you can start to see courses that naturally could be put together. Like Management Essentials with our Leadership course is coming out here in the first half of this year. If you put those two things together, they actually could be a really interesting bundle of content for somebody looking to brush up on both those disciplines. So more to come. We have a lot of things in work.
That sounds very exciting. That is very cool. So still actually sticking to this topic of how you choose your courses, I'm curious to know if there are plans to include faculty and or content related to the other schools. So as you know, I'm a joint degree with Harvard Kennedy School. I could see there being quite a bit of interest in a kind of cross-sector course offering. And I know there are professors who actually move between sometimes Harvard Kennedy School and Harvard Business School.
Yeah, so we actually have already done that pretty extensively in one course, although it's not a really part of our core business portfolio. We're doing, currently still are working on, a joint project with the Harvard Graduate School of Education, using both business school faculty and HGSE, Harvard Graduate School of Education faculty, and also Harvard Kennedy School faculty to teach a 4-course program for principals in K through 12 schools. It's a leadership, effectively, management program for principals. We've released the first one of those courses, and the next 3 will come over the next couple of years. But that's been a good model for exactly what you're talking about. I expect it's going to happen more as we go forward. My faculty counterpart, every I'll use business terms here, but P&L owner at the business school, of which I am one, has a faculty counterpart. Mine is a guy named Bharath Anand, who was a strategy professor here at HBS.
Mm-hmm.
He was recently appointed the vice provost for advancement in learning at Harvard University.
Okay.
And so now he actually is connected to all aspects of teaching and learning at all of Harvard. And I think he's going to actually find opportunities for us to do exactly what you're suggesting and teach some courses where we're drawing on the broader resources of Harvard and not just the business school.
Fantastic. And I can imagine that Harvard Business School Online is also, I don't actually know how the different faculties or schools at Harvard, for lack of a better word, compete for attention or resources. But I could imagine that this Harvard Business School Online is a huge, I don't even know, brand builder, profile builder for just the business school within the Harvard community for you all to pave the way for all the other schools to consider doing something similar.
Yeah, I think that's true. We actually, you know, as part of our pitch to faculty, we'll actually bring up that point. It really is a way for them. You know, faculty are ideas people, and they want to share their ideas. And so the more people they can share them with, generally, the more supportive they are of the medium by which they're being asked to do it. So online is a fantastic way to do that. And, you know, it's funny, there's our core faculty talk about how frequent it is now for them, given that we've had about 20,000 people go through core. They can be, you know, in an airport, and frequently we'll have people come up to them and say, "Hey, I know you. I took core."
That's very exciting.
Yeah, there's an element of fame in it that's kind of cool.
Sure. There's totally an element of fame. When I was at Harvard Business School, Anita Elberse was pretty new. And so she wasn't that rock star faculty that she is now. And it has been so exciting to see just how beloved she has. She was beloved by us, but we were just us, and just how beloved she is now with Harvard Business School Online and everything else that she's working on.
Yeah. Channing Tatum and Beyonce don't hang out with me, but they do with her. So.
Okay. Her social media is very envy-inducing.
Yes.
So another thing is, while working with a lot of MBA applicants, MPP applicants, I have seen an amazing upshoot in interest in impact investing and venture philanthropy. When I was in school, the focus was a lot more on like social enterprise, but now it's really shifted more, I think, towards like impact investing. I would just like to just say that I'm seeing a huge increase in interest in that. And are there plans to roll out a course in those domains?
Yeah, well, we already have one that touches on that, and that's that Sustainable Business Strategies course.
Okay.
It's done by a woman named Rebecca Henderson, who is a Harvard University professor, meaning she's HBS faculty, but a Harvard University professor is an honorary designation that only, I think, about 20 to 25 faculty at Harvard University get. A lot of faculty at Harvard University. So it's amazing. Really a recognition of somebody doing really spectacular work. And her kind of focus over the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years has been about sustainability. And Sustainable Business Strategies is about her thesis that the world's biggest problems cannot be solved by governments alone, that businesses, particularly large businesses, not only can have huge influence, but should, and that capitalism done the right way can actually drive significant change. It's a very, very interesting course. I actually went through most of it, as I do most of our courses as they come out, kind of go through them. And I learned a ton that I just didn't know about what companies are doing in that area. So it's not directly about impact investing, but it shows how companies are paying attention to the need to do things that make them a more attractive investment to people who might be worried about things like investing. We also have done some stuff. You mentioned seeing our studio. We have a virtual classroom that's still named HBX Live, where 60 people can be on a screen in front of a faculty member, very large screens. This isn't like doing Zoom on your computer. And we've used that for the Social Enterprise Institute here, I think a few times now. So we use other technologies to do synchronous learning and seminars using that tool. And we have had initial discussions and some interest about other courses like that would be on our asynchronous platform, the one that CORE is on.
Understood.
So yeah, stay tuned.
Okay, good. That's great to know. Those are actually all my questions about the name change. Just to say it again, We are no longer referring to Harvard Business School's online offerings, anything related to an X, although we still love that letter. It's just, there's nothing related to that. No more HBX. It's Harvard Business School Online. And if you want to say something shorter, it's HBS Online.
Correct.
Okay, got it. So I'm just curious, since you've been in the role for 3 years, what has most surprised you in your role as Executive Director of Harvard Business School Online?
I think the things that surprised me is I wasn't that surprised, meaning as a student, you get a sense of what the culture of a place is like, but you always wonder, particularly because you're kind of the customer, yes, are you seeing kind of a gilded version of what's really going on? And in the main, that has not been the case. I mean, it felt very comfortable. Like, it makes sense to me that the feel and culture of the place is what it is based on what I experienced in the classroom. And that culture is one of a real bias toward thinking thoughtfully about things. Again, wouldn't be surprising given we're an academic institution. A desire to, if we're going to do something, do it very, very well. Genesis of Harvard Business School Online, it even fits in that, because when it was contemplated about doing something online, the dean said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do something that is very HBS in nature. And for us, that was focusing on the case method of study, not a surprise, and building our own platform allowed us to do that. So for all those reasons, I wasn't, I guess my surprise was that I wasn't surprised by anything.
Good.
It felt very comfortable.
That's great. I said all my questions were done, but earlier you had said you were going to touch on the difference between Harvard Business School Online's offerings and the popular MOOCs. And I do want to give you the chance to do that, because I think that is a very common question is, well, why can't I just go take a free, massively open online course with the same title? And is that good enough? Talk to us about what's the premise? Why should I pay for Harvard Business School Online when I can go take this other class for free or for $15?
Yeah, so I'll start with and thanks for reminding me of that, because I think it is important. I'll start with the platform. We didn't use any off-the-shelf software, so to speak, to create Harvard Business School Online's platform. And because of that, we were able to control the experience very well. And in fact, we hear from people all the time that have done both our stuff and other people's stuff that it's much, much more seamless, integrated, and a better learning experience. In fact, I was in a meeting yesterday with somebody here who works at Harvard who's taken 2 of our courses, and she's an expert in online learning. And she says it's by far the best online experience you can have when it comes to being on the edge of your seat and being engaged in the learning. But it's not just about the technology. The technology was built the way it was because, as I mentioned before, the Harvard Business School is very much about the case method of study. And for those who don't know what that is, and sometimes I think we just assume people do, and I know.
No, I think it's great. Yes, do explain it.
Is the case method of learning is learning effectively through storytelling. So we're going to present to you a real manager with a real problem in a real company and ask you to put yourself in his or her shoes and think through how you might address the problem that they're faced with. And not only that, but to do it with a global community of learners. And, as you know, in the classroom, not just at HBS, other places that teach with the case method, the faculty member is much more of a maestro, kind of orchestrating a conversation to get to some end. It's not a lecture. And so we set out to try and replicate that feeling online. And it's even more important online because as boring as a lecture is in person, it's 10 times more boring.
Right. So many distractions at home.
Yeah. So we really wanted to make sure that it didn't feel like video lecture. So you may have, this is a great example. We have a case in the Economics for Managers course that's about a publisher, a traditional publisher, facing the advent of the Kindle and Amazon offering bestsellers for $9.99. And they're on camera being interviewed, and our interviews are very short, broken into segments about 3 minutes long, saying this scared the heck out of them. Interestingly, they weren't that worried about the Kindle. They thought it was a niche technology product that a few kind of wonky people would buy. But they were worried about the fact they were going to be offering books at $10 bestsellers when they were selling them at the time for $25 to $35.
Right.
So we see this video, and then we ask students, if you were in their shoes, is this good or bad for your business, as a poll? And 75% of people we know in advance, because this has been asked in the classroom, are going to say it's bad for your business. And then we say, okay, well, let's go down the logic here as to why it would be bad for your business. And we have people start thinking about how you build a profit and loss statement. And what people start to realize, but this is the importance of case method, it's coming to the conclusion yourself. You're not being told.
That's right.
You're experiencing it, so you internalize it. You start realizing, hey, the P&L isn't just about the top line. If I'm a traditional publisher, there's a ton of costs that could go away if I can now deliver my books through an electronic medium. You don't have to publish, you don't have to distribute, you don't need warehouses, all those sorts of things. So that's a small vignette as to how we teach through the case method. And that is so much more interesting, and it sticks with students so much more than if I was just on this screen saying to you, don't forget to remember expenses when you're talking about your P&L.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, 9 years later, my friends and I from HBS will sometimes refer to cases like, we'll be saying, this thing is happening in my business, and it's just like that case. Yeah, so it's...
Did you have Eric Peterson?
I did not have Eric Peterson.
No? Okay.
What made you ask that, though?
Because that was a case when I was a student that everybody referenced.
Oh, yes, we had the Eric Peterson case. I thought you were, that's like one of the first cases you have, maybe on
Yes, it is, yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought you were asking, did I have that person as a professor?
Oh,
and I was
right,
like,
I'm sorry.
I didn't. Yeah, we did do the Eric.
Yeah, but that's a great example of a case.
I won't do the spoiler, but yeah, where it's just like, oh God, and then that happened, and then that, oh man. Yeah, no, we do. The cranberry case, and we still do all those.
Oh, the cranberry one I remember too. One of the points just on differences too, I mentioned the global cohort and having to do that. Our courses are not on demand. You're taking them, you start and end on a specific date, and you're taking them with a cohort who's working through the material with you. And that's intentional because we want people working through at the same time as you, so you can help each other through the material, which is a tenet of the case method as well.
Wonderful. So there's actually quite a lot of differences. It sounds to me that, yes, it's delivered online, and Harvard Business School is using all of the advantages that the internet and being able to film the video and things like that offers, and just even the access to people all over the world, but that it's actually in the experience closer to actually taking a case-based course on campus, and it's online. The professors are Harvard Business School professors, not just Harvard Business School professors, but tenured professors. Yeah. You're going through the course at the same time with a cohort, using the same or similar cases. Actually, I don't actually know.
It's both. Sometimes we create new cases for online. Some are just repurposed from classroom.
Totally understood. So yeah, so that helps me, that the thing that Harvard Business School Online has in common with the MOOCs is more like, it's a class and it's online. But that's the same thing like saying Harvard is a school and so is some other random school, right? It's not a school as a school. It's a completely different experience. So that's actually a very helpful differentiation.
Good.
Wonderful. Well, at the Art of Applying, we love to celebrate and focus on what is working. And we just do a lot of celebrating in the internal team, with our consultants, with our clients. I would love to hear, Patrick, something that the Harvard Business School Online team, besides the awesome name change, has celebrated recently.
Well, we celebrate every time we release a new course. For sure. We celebrated an outcome survey that we just did, because one of the things that is a bugaboo kind of for all of education is, what's the outcome? That's right. Does this really benefit me? So we surveyed about 1,000 of our previous participants and found that 1 in 4 said it got them a promotion. 1 in 3 said it got them a new career. Actually, they were able to pivot their careers. And about half said they got increased attention from recruiters. So hearing things like that from a professional standpoint really makes it feel worthwhile. But more than that, the ones that I thought or maybe get less press but are really better is, we had a whole bunch of ones that were more about the personal value to people. And it's stunning the number of people, all of these above 90%, who would say things like it significantly increased their confidence. And I think a lot of that's just, people, I always use the example, you're at a dinner party or something, somebody's talking about some article in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, or whatever, and just being able to know the language of business and join in can be very, very gratifying. And so when I see those stories, or I talk to participants who talk about how it's changed their lives, and they really do, I mean, it can be that dramatic often. It's really, really fun to celebrate those things.
That was a great celebration, and I thank you for sharing that. I completely agree that it, as a person who came in with no business background to Harvard Business School, And my understanding is that did you come straight from the military to business
I
school?
had I had 2 years in the private sector, but yeah, I've been had a lot
Okay.
of
So
business experience.
you had 2 years. So a little bit of an outsider in terms of that.
Yeah.
It's a huge confidence booster to understand, like, what is it when they say the Dow has dropped by X number of points?
Yeah.
What is a point? Um,
Yeah. Right.
what is a P and L? What's the P and what's
Yeah.
the L? And so, yeah, I completely agree. And thank you so much for your time, for sharing. And I've been a big fan of the online offerings of Harvard Business School since the beginning, and I'm excited about the name change. And thank you so much for sharing about that with us
Thanks
today.
for the time. Appreciate it.